tuning in tonight. I guess that's what we do now. I am Kate, and this is Melissa, and we're from the Barrington Area Library. And between us and my husband, we've taken just about every DNA test there is, at least the 5 major ones, which is what we're going to talk about tonight.
I'm not sure if you all can see me or not. So I work alongside Kate. Oh, you're just going to go ahead and jump in?
No, go right ahead.
Oh, but if you have any issues, again, my computer is not picking up the internet, so I'm on my phone. Just let me know if I have to stop and go over anything again.
All right, let's get underway. As you know, DNA is a really hot topic right now. And so, as I said, between us and my husband, we've taken all these tests, and we thought we would do a little comparison shopping, see what our results are, and see what we got for our DNA dollar. So, why DNA? Reasons to test. Preserve and learn about the oldest living generation's genome, which is a fancy way of saying get your eldest relatives tested now. You want to preserve that information for your genealogy research. You also could learn about family health history or genomic medicine. If you have a health concern, a DNA test might help with that. And of course, you want to further your genealogy research, which is another reason to test for DNA. And you want to help with, it can also help with adoption research. If you know you're adopted or have just found out you're adopted, you could do a DNA test, publish all those results to as many sites as you can, and hopefully you'll find a match with a cousin, and then you can work on finding birth parents that way. And you might also just do it for curiosity or fun. Certainly a dinner party conversation or family reunion conversation, DNA usually will come up. And if you want to have fun, there are tests for wine preference, and there are even tests for dogs and cats. Reasons not to test. Privacy. How private is my information once my DNA has been tested? Security. How secure is that lab that has my DNA sample? What are they doing with it? A health scare. If you do test for health issues and you get some results that are unexpected, there are false positives and false negatives, so there is possibility of that. Use by law enforcement. As you've all heard, decades-old cases are being solved with DNA, and if you put up your DNA and you leave it open, law enforcement can come in and look at that. Finding out something you don't want to know, like your dad is not your dad, or at least in my case, that my grandparents aren't my grandparents. So let's go over some DNA definitions. This is the only science in the program, I promise. We're not scientists, we're librarians, but we need some basic definitions to get us through this evening. So we're talking about Y chromosomes, which are passed to father and son, the X chromosome, which women inherit from both parents, and mitochondrial DNA, which is passed on to both men and women from their mothers. And a new finding has been released recently, and Melissa will tell you about that.
Sure. So as of late 2018, there was a pediatrician / genealogist out of Cincinnati that found in a certain family there seems to have been a code break where rather than accepting only one version of mitochondrial DNA, where it's the grandmother to the mother to the daughter, this individual actually inherited multiple strands of DNA. It's about 1 in every 5,000 people that inherit this. This may be something that in the future we encounter as an issue, but as of right now, with the tests that test mitochondrial DNA, just automatically assume that it is grandmother to mother to daughter and down the female line that way. But again, in the future, this might be something that comes up where individuals recognize that there's different mitochondrial DNA rather than the one set.
Okay, and then the standard test that most DNA kits use is the autosomal DNA, and this is where you get your ethnicity and your cousin matching. And a haplogroup. This is a genetic population that shares a common ancestor, and this goes back thousands of generations. This is your Neanderthal, and you're way, way back 20,000 years or more. All right, you know it, you love it. It's the biggest, most advertised DNA test kit out there. It's AncestryDNA, and Melissa will take it away.
All right, so with AncestryDNA, what you receive is you're going to get a saliva sample. It's going to have a little test tube that you spit in. Things that you should know before you do the saliva sample test is you cannot eat, smoke, or drink anything outside of water 30 minutes before these tests. If you do, it will go ahead and make the test null, and you'll have to take another one. So what you do is you just spit in the saliva sample test tube up to the black line, and then once you get to the black line and it's actual pure saliva, not bubbly spit or anything like that, you're going to go ahead and close it, shake up the blue solution with your saliva, and then put it into the box that you receive and send it off. It takes about 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes less if it's not a holiday. If it's around an ethnic holiday or a seasonal holiday like Labor Day or Christmas, things like that, it will take longer sometimes to get your results because of the influx they receive. What you get with the Ancestry kit is you get DNA matching, which means who am I related to that has also taken this test. They do have an app on their phone. They have just the regular Ancestry DNA app as well as their Family Tree app. It is the largest. When we first started this, it was about approximately 60 million people. I'm sure it's grown since then. They have about 1,000 regions, and regions are set up according to that commercial test and how they want to specify a region. Now, there's only so much landmass on the globe, so regions, again, you'll see 1,000. It really is going to wind up being the same with MyHeritage, or what are the other ones, 23andMe, things like that. So when you see 1,000 regions, don't get too caught up in that because you're not really getting anything different. It's just the parameters that Ancestry sets is different than the 23andMe or MyHeritage. It is the cheapest. You can a lot of times get it for like $59, but the standard price is $100. But a lot of times it's on sale around holidays, and especially during COVID, I've been getting emails all the time with special deals from all the companies. So it's something you definitely want to just sign up for if you're interested in the future and haven't taken one yet. Are there any questions we have before we go forward?
Great. All right, this is my DNA story from Ancestry, and this is the one from, I want to say, 2 years ago when I first sent it in. And this is my ethnicity estimate from them. And it shows 47% Europe, Eastern Europe, and 40% Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, and they've even got me down to Munster for specificity, and a little bit of Finland, Scandinavian. This pretty much goes with what the family story is. All my mom's relatives are Irish. All of my dad's relatives are Lithuanian. So this was pretty good for a result in the DNA test. Not to be outdone, they updated my results a second time, and I was about 50-50 again. And then they did a massive update, in which case they doubled their sample size. So they are getting greater specificity with their ethnicity estimates. So the last update, I look like this. Whereas with the second to last update, they took my Scandinavian out, they've put it back in. And I can only assume that's my Viking relatives from long ago. But again, it's still pretty much 50% Irish, 50% Lithuanian. So for me, the DNA test is pretty spot on. Once they get you down, go ahead.
Did you have to retest, or they just keep the data and then the database gets bigger?
Correct. As the database gets bigger, they will get more specific with their regions because they will have a larger base. And yes, you only send in the test once and then they keep updating it. The second time I did not get an email, the third time I did. So we always encourage people to just go ahead and check back just in case.
Okay.
Yeah, I also found one of my updates in my spam filter.
There you go.
So I mean, I think they honestly, legitimately try to send it up there, but because they send out so many emails for sales, it got caught up in their stuff.
I certainly could believe that. So once they get you down to a region, for example, my Irish is regional, my Lithuanian is not yet, but once you get to the regional level, they will give you a history, which is here. And they will all have a migration map telling me where the Irish went to over time. And I just chose the 1850 here because that's the potato famine time of Irish life. And it looks like they mostly ended up in Australia and America. So obviously mine came to America and then ended up in Chicago, where my two little lines are right there. And of course, the big thing with Ancestry is the DNA matching. And this is where you get your cousins, hopefully a first or a second, possibly a third, and then you will get gajillions of fourth cousins and further down. But this is where you can start looking and contacting people to make your DNA match, fill in your family tree, and so forth. And they also mapped out my ancestry matches as well. So I have an idea of where these people are.
Nice.
They have something called ThruLines. If you put up a tree with Ancestry, they will go through all the other people's trees in their database and try to find connections for you. And they have something called traits, which I like to call Kate's traits. This is kind of more of a fun thing, I think, than an actual feature, but it'll suggest traits like my hair color, my eye color, whether I like sweets and dislike bitter, and so forth. They gave them to me free because I had already done my DNA test and gotten the results back, and this is sort of a free add-on. If you're a new customer, however, they are charging $20 to get the traits. So I'm not entirely sure it's worth $20 to get these traits. But if you're already there, they will throw them in. And I just got another email that said, "Oh, you have a new trait." So, yay. All right, I will turn it over because Ancestry is on the health bandwagon, and Melissa has information on that.
All right, so Ancestry has two different health versions, and I can't remember what the cost was for the cheaper one. I think it was just about $60 or something to update it to the health as well. It is an add-on. Again, this is Ancestry trying to compete with MyHeritage as well as 23andMe especially. But what it is you go and they have a, so to speak, panel of doctors, and basically you answer a questionnaire and they decide whether or not you're a good candidate. Of course, they're going to admit you as a candidate because they've already taken your money before they give you the questionnaire. So you get the questionnaire, they go back and they re-examine your sample if you've already submitted one, which I had, and then they give you a small health report. It's not anything too big like 23andMe. It's for the major things, like you'll see it says cancer risk, heart and blood health, carrier status. One of the things that is an issue with these tests is on mine, I had answered that nobody's ever had cancer that we know of, things like that. The main things were diabetes, Alzheimer's. Now, when they went in, they said, based upon your questions that you answered, you are high risk for breast cancer or ovarian cancer. And I have no idea how they received that, because nobody on either side of my line, even going back further to great-great-grandparents, has ever had cancer. So I don't know how they had that as a red flag, but this might be a kink that they work out again in the future. Any questions about the AncestryHealth?
What
Yes.
was that company?
It was Ancestry that has the up-and-coming health.
Oh, okay.
Right there, this is a new feature for them, and obviously here's their big disclaimer that the test should not be used to treat yourself, that you should talk to a healthcare provider, and it is not cleared by the Food and Drug Administration.
Okay.
So before we move to 23, any questions on Ancestry? All right. 23andMe, the second biggest and more well-known company, competing directly with Ancestry for your DNA dollar. And they are the only FDA-cleared test for genetic health risk and carrier status. So you might want to take that into consideration if you're considering the DNA test for health reasons. You do give them a saliva sample, and they give you the results in 3 to 5 weeks. They do have DNA matching with their family tree feature, and they do have an app. They are the second largest database. It's approximately 13 million at this point. We're not sure because they haven't released that information just yet, but it's probably around there by now. It was 10 million, it's gone up. They test in 1,500 regions, at least they say they test in 1,500 regions. Again, take that with a grain of salt because they all define their regions differently. And I think they're just all trying to get the biggest number that they can possibly get. They have a variety of test options. Their basic ancestry and traits is $99. Obviously, you're going to try and get that on sale right around the holidays and so forth. Their health and ancestry is $199. Then if you want to go with the VIP route, you can give them $500 and they will send you two kits, priority lab processing, premium customer support, and a 30-minute phone call to discuss your results. One of the things about 23andMe is you can go to a CVS, a Target, a Walgreens, a Walmart, or a Best Buy and pick one off the shelf and bring it home. It can also be ordered from Amazon and 23andMe directly. And we just, there was a recent ruling that a percentage of the cost can be paid with money from your healthcare flexible spending account if you have one of those. So here's the type of health reports that you can get: genetic health risks for diabetes, celiac, Parkinson's, and so forth. They also have wellness reports on caffeine, your sleep, your muscle composition. They also have traits: cheek dimples, eye color, freckles, and so on. And they also have carrier status. So if you're a carrier for cystic fibrosis or sickle cell. And again, they always put out the disclaimer that this is just information that you should bring to your healthcare professional, and you shouldn't make any medical decisions on this. So you want to consult with your healthcare professional before taking any action. And just recently at the start of this year, January of 2020, 23andMe is getting into drug development. So they have helped develop this drug for inflammatory diseases, and they've sold it off to a Spanish drug maker. So they're expanding into that area as well. All right, my husband Terry has taken the 23andMe. On the left is his first result, which was about 30% Scandinavian and 21% British Isles and Ireland, which is pretty much goes along with the story of his family, which is all of mom's side is Swedish, all of dad's side is Great Britain. And they did one update, and again, changed the percentages just a smidge, so that it's 37% now Scandinavian and 28% British and Ireland. So as the databases keep getting bigger, the percentages will change. And then updated yet again, we have Scandinavian up to 35%, and some French and German have gotten in there in 23%, and 16 in the British and the Irish. So again, as the database gets bigger, the numbers might change a bit. They also have traits. So Terry's traits are not able to taste bitter, less likely to have bunions, doesn't have any dimples, and doesn't have a cleft chin, among other things. So again, more of a fun kind of thing, but they do include that in your package. They also include your Neanderthal database, again, your thousands and thousands, 40,000 years ago relatives. And again, they measure this against the current database. So, and he's got very tiny bit, plus or minus 2% of his DNA, or less than 2% of his DNA is Neanderthal. Again, included in the package price. They also give you your haplogroup. Again, this is your 20,000 to 40,000 years ago. His haplogroup is JM67, and it also gives you the migration patterns for that group. And he also gets a maternal group, which is U4A2A. And again, 150,000 years ago, that's where he came from. And it does also give you your migration patterns for that. You also get a chromosome painter, which is another way of looking at your composition. And it shows all of your 23 pairs and where your DNA sits on those 23 pairs. And you can match that up with other people's DNA as well. And you can also get a nice one-page summary report for the 23andMe where it lists everything that it has found. So you do get a lot for your money in this 23andMe, I have to say. Questions about that? All right, then I will give it National Geographic with Melissa.
All right, I'm not sure if anyone's taken Nat Geo, but as of right now, just to make it a quick thing, Nat Geo Geno 2.0 was basically a human migration science experiment where you would go in and they would tell you your deep ancestry. This was for mapping human migration around the globe. Their basis was that everyone started out of Africa and migrated around, and depending on your haplogroup, that depends on where you have traveled from. But again, Nat Geo has canceled it. You can no longer purchase it. If you do have it, please go in and get your records now, so that way you will have it for your own family history purposes. But other than that, it pretty much is just null at this point.
Right, you have until the end of 2020 to go in and get your results off the site. All right, our next biggie is FamilyTreeDNA, and this is a cheek swab as opposed to spitting into a tube. And the results come in 2 to 12 weeks. That depends on your test that you choose. And the one with FamilyTreeDNA has extra tests that test for just Y-DNA and mtDNA as opposed to the others, which just do the autosomal for the most part. They do have DNA matching if you put up a tree. Their database is 1 million. And they list themselves as 24 regions. So you can see that's a big difference between the 1,500 and the 1,000 from the others. But their 24 regions are really broad regions. As I said, you can get a Y-DNA test for between $119 and $450. You can get an mtDNA test for $159. Their basic family finder test is $79. And that's where you'll get your ethnicity. They have something called factoids, which are traits, basically. And you need to pay extra for that if you want it. And that's from $19 to $49. Or you can bundle them together with $149. Again, not sure it's worth doing for just traits. They have health and wellness reports by VitaGene if you give them an additional $49, and that's your caffeine, your muscle composition, and so forth. And they've also jumped on the health bandwagon. If you want to give them $799, they will send you to Tovana Health, and then you will get your carrier status and your propensity for developing cancer and so forth. All right, so we sent in mine, and here's the result that I have, and they call it Origins, which is their way of saying ethnicity report. And as you can see, 55% Eastern Europe, there's my Lithuanian relatives, and 44% British Isles, which is, again, pretty spot on. They also have what they call ancient origins, which is basically your Neanderthal. And it looks like I'm supposed to be 50% hunter-gatherer. And again, 45,000 years ago, this is my migration pattern out of Africa and across Europe. Questions about that one? All right, let's do living DNA. This is kind of the new kid on the block, or the new-ish kid on the block. And they are based in England. So they have a European database. So if you have relatives or your family history is in Europe or England, you might want to consider taking this one, because they will have the bigger database over there across the pond. Their lab is in Finland. So when I did mine, it took 12 weeks. Because I sent it to England, England sent it to Finland, Finland tested the DNA and sent it back to England, and then England sent me the results. Now that they've opened up a lab in the US, it's about 6 to 8 weeks, which is pretty standard for a DNA test. They do have ancestry and well-being. It's not the health, it's more the fitness and the nutrition kind of thing. They do finally now have DNA matching, which is called family networks. They did not for a very long time. But they finally do have DNA matching there. They don't have an app, and we don't know how many people they've tested. It's never been released as far as I can tell. I checked again right before this presentation, and I still couldn't find any numbers for the database there. And they say 150 regions. They have a starter kit, which just does your ethnicity. That's all you're interested in. It's $49 all the time, and you just get your ethnicity results, and you are good to go. They get more information out of their ancestry kit, and if you want to add on the well-being, it's another $129, or you can buy them both together for $179. Here is my first result from them: Ireland 45, and the Baltics, Lithuania, at 37. And a little bit of Scandinavian. So that's pretty much in line with what Ancestry was telling me at that time. And they announced November 4th, 2019, that they were going to do an update of the website. And it's not an update of the results. So basically, when they redid the website, they gave me new colors, but I pretty much is the same 45 and 37 in the percentages. But then they did an actual update of the results, and now I'm 50% Great Britain and Ireland and 49% Eastern Europe. So again, pretty spot on as far as I can tell from all the research that I've done, researching my family history. That's it, 50-50, that's me. They will also give a maternal mtDNA for my haplogroup. So this is about 23,000 years ago, and where the relatives came from. And they also map it out with percentages of where they think my long ago ancestors are. And my husband's got his results here also. He has got 54% European and 39% Great Britain and Ireland, which seems to be about right. Scandinavia being a big part of that. And since he's a fella, he gets a father line as well as a mother line. So his Haplogroup is JM67, which matches up with the other tests. And this is about 21,000 years ago, where everyone migrated out of Africa and into Europe. And again, they map out his paternal haplogroup here. Questions on that one? All right, then Melissa will talk about MyHeritage.
Okay, so MyHeritage is different than Ancestry and I believe 23andMe. This one is a cheek swab. You basically just take a giant Q-tip and swab the inside of both of your cheeks for about 60 seconds, and then you stick it in the test tube and close it up. It takes about 3 to 4 weeks. Again, it is just the autosomal. Now they do have health. We'll talk about that later. They do offer DNA matching just like the other ones. And they do have an app, which is great for family reunions, things like that when you're on the go. Their database is about 3 million, but that did recently go up because MyHeritage purchased the Promethease, and what they did was anybody in the United States that had basically uploaded their genetic codes to check their health, they automatically just rolled it into their database and created accounts for those individuals. They have 42 regions. Again, the regions aren't, anything that you really need to be too concerned about. It's just how they section off different ethnic areas. Right now, I did double check, and they have a sale going on for $39 for their test, but
Nice.
on average, it's about $79. Okay, so you'll see here, this is my DNA results. I have a little more Eastern European than Kate. She has the lovely benefit of having at least some of the UK stuff that narrows down, but when you get to be too far east, you're going to see just basic things like this, where it's only 58% Eastern European. They break it down into Eastern Europe and the Baltic, where if you were to look at the different results, it would say about like 70 to 80%. And then there's 11% English, Irish. With all these tests, they are going to favor the western part of Europe. Something that I just found out recently is that actually in France and Germany, it is actually illegal to do these tests under almost all circumstances. In Poland, I believe you can get the test done, but it has to be within certain strict parameters, and you can actually get fined. So that's also further limiting these test results in most areas. In the UK, they don't necessarily have that stipulation there. Any questions about how the regions are set up, or where there's more, where there's less? Sure.
Why is it just the health part that's illegal, or the entire test?
The entire test.
Germany it was?
Yeah, France and Germany, I believe, if I remember correctly. I don't have the article right for me, but yeah, definitely France, it is illegal, and Germany, it is illegal. I think they have a few stipulations where you can do it. And then Poland is a little more lenient, but a lot of these countries, for whatever their reason may be, have it where these US-based companies have a very difficult time getting people to take tests because of the legal restrictions and the criminal punishment that is put on if they find out.
Thank you.
Sure, go ahead.
I just said thank you.
Oh, okay. So when you do get your matches, a way to rule out the cousin matches and things like that is by centimorgans, and you have this nice little chromosome browser where it will show you where you match up on what specific chromosome And this is a way basically to rule out if you're actually closely related to someone or not. Centimorgans can be a whole nother program in itself, but basically anything 10 and under really isn't a lot. They, you know, get more people to test based upon how many matches they're going to give you, but you're really not related to everyone that they match you to. There is a margin of error. None of these companies tell you what the margin of error is. MyHeritage is the most forthcoming with any questions that you have. They have a great help section. Ancestry doesn't even designate anything to this. It really is more commercialized than, I would say, MyHeritage in that way. But this is a great way if you get someone that comes up and you're like, where did this person even come from? And you don't have your parents who have taken tests. This is a great way to see if you actually are related more than just like one tiny little chromosome strand. Any questions about the chromosome browser? Okay, AutoCluster is another one. This one is a little more difficult to play around with, but again, this is just how closely related is someone to you in the line of descent. This I wouldn't necessarily use too frequently. It's probably a tool that they're going to eventually develop and to be more user-friendly, but right now it's a little too complicated. All right, MyHeritage Health disclaimer basically is the same thing as most of the standardized privacy policies that you will see out there. This is an add-on to the regular test, and this is MyHeritage, again, competing with 23andMe, and now Ancestry is also doing the same thing. I did go ahead and take it. They do have more carrier risks and things like that. You'll see they have 4 polygeneric risks: female breast cancer, heart disease. They have 14 monogenetic risks. Sorry if there's any crinkling, my cat just walked into the room. 4 genetic risk reports, and then the 18 carrier statuses. So they do offer more than what Ancestry offers. So it seems like maybe they have a little more backing or a little more health science going into it than Ancestry does. Again, I like this company better than I like Ancestry, but Ancestry is the bigger bank. So you'll see in mine, it says late onset Alzheimer's, and then you'll see where they have the different individuals. You'll have one where, and again, I'm looking at my phone, but the one that has the more people lit up, that's saying this many people that have this genetic coding will actually get late onset Alzheimer's, and everything that is gray, those are the people that have this genetic coding that won't get it. So basically what they're trying to say is, hey, even though you have this, don't necessarily get scared, because it doesn't mean that you're actually going to get late onset Alzheimer's. And then the one on the right with the smaller lit up red people, that's the amount of people all over the entire globe that actually carry this gene that actually get it. It's, you know, these health things, they are commercial, they're entertainment based, they're not meant and get concerned. The way that they have any of these tests, the way that they have their health codes and their what do you call it, the word just left my mind, but basically commercial tests, our algorithms are set up different than your actual medical algorithm tests. So if you have a concern, talk to your doctor. Don't bring your test results in. Just, you know, tell them, because you don't want your test results becoming part of your chart. Just tell them, and if they see that there's a concern, then they will go ahead and, you know, possibly offer you their test. But, you know, this is just basic education. It's elementary. It's not anything to take, too seriously. These are just some of the carrier statuses, things that you'll see in there, like glycogen storage disease type 1A, things like that. Obviously, it's in the significant to decreased stage, cystic fibrosis, Gaucher disease, all those things. These are just for your benefit to see what they offer in it. So we can go ahead and switch to the next one. I think it's just going to be the same. And I will hand it over to Kate.
All right. There are specialty DNA tests. We haven't taken these, but we thought we'd mention them. There is something called home DNA and tests for ancestry and paternity and dog and cat breeds. And you can go into a CVS or a Walgreens and pick one of these up so you don't have to order and wait from Amazon if you don't want to. As I mentioned previously, Wisdom Panel and Embark will test your dog's DNA, and base paws for cats can be ordered from Amazon and to get your cat tested for DNA. And Genome is for wine taste preference. So if you like red wine, white wine, any kind of wine, it will tell you what you would prefer based on your DNA. Vitagene has an AncestryHealth weight diet test, and you can order that from Amazon. And Tell Me Jen, I just found out about this one. I haven't had much time to check it out. They have DNA for health. So those are a few of the other things, other specialty tests that are out there. All right, I got my results. Now what? So we've decided on a test. We purchased our test. We've sent it in. We got back the results. Now what do we do with them? One thing you can do is upload them to other testing sites. Certain test sites will let you do that for free. Sometimes they will charge you. They're all kind of changing quickly in that area. You can also upload them to GEDmatch, Genome Link, Promethease, and to learn even more, you can start contacting your matches. So those close cousins that are right at the top there, you might want to start emailing them. And you can start building your family tree. And as we said before, we mentioned go back and check for updates just in case. So I mentioned this is the one that the law enforcement tend to use, and they've just been purchased by Verogen, so we're going to see what happens with that. And again, you would people uploaded their DNA samples results to GEDmatch, and it would be out there for anyone to look at, including law enforcement. So we will see what happens now that they've been purchased by Verogen. All right, Melissa has uploaded hers to GEDmatch.
Yep. So GEDmatch is a site that is constantly going through different phases. Right now, since there has been so much backlash from the public over having police having access to GEDmatch, they have gone and updated everything, and there basically are 4 different categories of GEDmatch now. There is the private, there is the research, there's the public opt-in, and there is the public opt-out. And basically you'll see over on the right screen, in the picture you'll see what looks like almost like a badge strip with a circle and a red dash through it. That means you are public opt-out. And basically all that is that you have uploaded your DNA results to GEDmatch and you have opted out of the police enforcement access. Now I have gone and just opted in. This is only a concern if you don't want to, help anything. You'll see with CC More, it is something that is becoming much more prevalent, and it is going to be a big source for law enforcement in the future. If you guys do have questions, that is something that we can go more into detail on how it works. But basically, commercial tests have a different algorithm, just like the health, they have a different algorithm from the CODIS database, but police are finding ways to get around that. Again, I can go into more detail if you guys do have questions, but unless you upload, it's not really too much of a concern for you. Any questions about the crime? Okay, so then we'll just go into the calculators. GEDmatch is a great way if you do upload your DNA. In addition to sometimes finding people that haven't necessarily taken the same commercial tests as you, GEDmatch is a great way to compare the test results chromosome by chromosome to see where exactly your percentages are and how they vary from one commercial test to another. I've done MyHeritage and Ancestry, and I wanted to see what the percentage difference was, and you'll see that over on the right, and then a little pie chart on the left. It gets a little complicated with all these different calculators that they offer, but it's just, again, something fun to play around with. All right, and then Genome Link is another entertainment website. You upload your results for free. You get a basic few sets where it will tell you, you know, you like red wine, you have a caffeine intolerance, you like to eat more carbs, things like that. And then every week they'll send you an email where you can add a free one, or you can go ahead and purchase things, which is, you know, their main driver. They want you to purchase more to tell you more about yourself. Chances are you already know, you know, what you like and dislike, and it's not always accurate. It's just something fun to play with. All right, Promethease was purchased by MyHeritage, as I spoke about earlier. So if you did have something uploaded Promethease as far as your health reports, you should have already gone ahead and got that out of there. MyHeritage will not automatically give you a free health account if you had Promethease before. You still have to go and purchase that. But anyone that did have Promethease will automatically have their DNA and things like that uploaded into MyHeritage, but I believe they still are going to make you purchase a separate autosomal DNA test kit. They're not just automatically going to give you a freebie because they want to make money.
All right, questions on that before we move on to adoption? All right. Obviously, DNA and adoption is a hot topic as well, and we have seen people reunited after 50 years with sisters and brothers they never knew they had, and finding birth parents after a long period of time as well. And so what you want to do if you are interested in finding birth parents, you want to test widely. So take as many DNA tests as you can and share your results. So you need to be out there for people to be able to find you. You want to continue or start your genealogy research, and you want to look at those potential matches and do some actual genealogy research to see if people are actually going to be on your tree. And once you find these people, you want to reach out cautiously and with sensitivity, because they may not want to find they have a secret family, or they might. It depends. And so you want to be very careful with that, contacting people out of the blue. And usually people will do that through cousins. So the cousins usually meet up, and then they will try to contact the actual birth parents. The ISOG website has a great section on breaking through the walls of adoption, and the URL is right there on the screen. I've also put it in the chat along with other important sites, including our website, which has a comparison chart of everything that we've talked about here tonight, and it has the ISOG and the National Institutes of Health and Medicine for DNA sites as well. Privacy, a big issue with DNA. Melissa.
Yes. So with privacy, again, with GEDmatch and the police enforcement, these are some things that Kate and I found. You'll see links to 3 different areas. I'm not going to focus too much on the questions. We can leave the slide up if you want to go ahead and, write down the questions. So I'll try and talk a little longer. You'll see the first link is the Coalition for Genetic Data Protection. These are 3 companies: Ancestry, 23andMe, and Helix, which is a scientific company that actually runs a lot of these results through their labs. They have gone ahead and created a lobbying firm. It's run by a DC company, the Mellon, I'm not even going to be able to pronounce that, Rosen and Thomas. They hired them to go ahead and advocate upon their behalf. I think, as last time I checked, they spent about $100,000. Basically, what they're trying to do is keep their own interests as far as these DNA test kits go. They don't want you to have full control. They want to be able to go ahead and sell things so that way they can make some money off of your DNA results. Just like Kate brought up earlier, 23andMe went ahead and allowed access to their database for this pharmaceutical company to go ahead and create this anti-inflammatory drug. So that's something to consider if you are apprehensive. This might be something that, really turns you off. Again, it is something that's going to come up more and more as far as who has rights to my DNA test results when I submit them to this commercial companies. This is where these questions come into play. The 2 articles that played into these questions also are the LA Times article and the Hill article. So those are something that you possibly would want to just Google check if you are still on the fence about this. Any questions before we move to the next privacy section?
No, but I will just mention that I just saw an article a day or 2 ago that Ancestry and 23andMe are putting out questionnaires to all the people that have taken tests and trying to help with COVID-19 and DNA.
Yes. Yeah, I did. Did you do that, Kate, or no?
No.
Okay, so I did do the questionnaire. It's basically just, hey, have you had COVID or anyone in your family had COVID? If you answer yes, I think that they probably would look at your DNA more. But since I haven't had anybody even closely related to me that we know of that's had it, then, obviously you're not of any help. And that's basically what it is.
And even I did respond on that one also, because I got it in, and I had possibly exposure. Was never tested, have not been tested, because I've been working from home for the past 8 weeks. And so that's from the timing of the illness, they had a series of questions. I could tell that it wasn't checking for COVID. They were checking to see what else was going on in that basic time frame, so that they could check the genetics against people who didn't test positive too. So it was really an interesting element to be able to have looking at it. I mean, I realized that, wait a second, they could use this against me possibly, but they already have the stuff in there. So.
Right. And when it comes, and we're going to talk about it, I think it might possibly be the next slide. When it comes to health insurance companies, they cannot access this information. Now, if, like I said, you don't want to bring in your test results to your doctor, because if they get left in the file, chances are they won't, because your doctors don't want any part of this. But if they're left in your health report file, then the insurance companies can get it. But as it stands right now, according to the Genetic Information Discrimination Act, health insurance companies cannot go after your genetic test. That may change in the future. No one knows at this point. It's something that is still growing, but as it stands right now, they cannot. The company that can go after your results are the life insurance policy sorry if you hear a baby crying, life insurance. They can go ahead and ask if you've taken tests and things like that and deny you. But again, we went ahead and wrote out the 2 parts of GINA, and you can also not be discriminated against by your employer over these results either. For further information, we can leave the slide up a little longer if you want to write down the 2 links that we have there. There's GinaHelp.org, which I believe will also give you the discrimination link, which is a little faster.
All right. If you'd like to know more, as I said, the International Society of Genetic Genealogy, or ISOG, has a wonderful website, as well as the National Library of Medicine. And even if you go out to YouTube and just type in DNA test kit, I'm sure you're going to find many, many videos out there on YouTube talking about the various tests. And the chat, I put these links, so you should be able to copy them off the chat. Here's a few of those YouTube videos. Introduction to Genetic Genealogy, MyHeritage has it, Ancestry has it. There's lots of videos out there if you'd like to find your information that way. Here's all the websites of the test kits that we talked about. And again, you can order those through Amazon. Some of them you can walk into a store or drugstore and pick one up. And here's our handy dandy comparison chart, as I said, at the Barrington Library site. This is on our webpage. And I put that should be a link on the chat. If not, please let me know. We'll redo that so you can see that. But this is a simple way to compare all the test kits that we talked about today. Questions?
So caffeine, is that how well you metabolize caffeine?
Yes, it varies depending on the company, but yeah, it's mostly metabolism.
Thank you.
Your tolerance level.
So we can find out if I can have 3 pots of coffee and not just 2.
Exactly.
and not have a heart attack and be able to save that whole stuff. Yeah.
Exactly.
It might be worth the money if I can find out what my maximum tolerance is.
There you go. There you go. Yes, I find those are mostly for fun than completely accurate. But I mean, it said I have wavy hair. It's like, well, you can see that's not true. I kind of take those with a grain of salt. They're kind of fun. And like I said, I'm not sure I would pay extra to get those traits.
Have you found that any of the affiliations of any of these companies have come into play? Like Ancestry is strongly linked to the LDS databases and LDS stuff.
If they can buy it, they will do so. Yes, they've certainly added a lot of the LDS materials to their database.
But have the other ones, in terms of the I mean, I've only looked at Ancestry, honestly.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at 23andMe to see if well, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I sort of wish every once in a while when I have time I can kill, I go into the library and use theirs, because I don't want to buy my own for $180 a year or whatever it is. But
right, depending on your library, Ancestry Library Edition is free from home right now until the end of June that we are aware of. So
I did not know that. I'll have to
log into your library, go to their Ancestry. Hopefully they've set it up. They're able to set it up so that you can use Ancestry Library Edition from home right now.
I remember when they had the state of Illinois libraries databases free. You could check out all the databases they had available. And then about a week later they said, okay, would everybody please stop using Ancestry.com, because they're all doing it.
I believe it.
There was one of the other they had it at Berwyn Public Library when I was there for a short period of time. That was one of the Ancestry-like sites that did the did the family tracing. And I'm trying to remember what it was that it didn't have. I mean, you had to do it manually and go back and see family names and go back and do all that stuff. But it seemed to be a fairly robust. That wasn't LDS data necessarily. For what it's and my brain, I should have gone back and looked at it. But it was one of those that could only be used. That might have been it. It can only be used inside, at least at that time. Although if they're being closed, they might have it open.
Right. Find My Past.
I think it was
Maybe?
Find My Past. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, if you're British Isles, you want to use Find My Past.
Yeah. Okay.
That Arlington Heights has that. Again, when or if it'll be available anytime soon, I don't know, but I believe you need to go there to do it. I don't know that well, even if it does have home access, they would limit it to their own card holders, I'm sure.
Yeah, because when I did that one there, I was able to trace my family line back to about like 1030.
Wow, fabulous.
So I mean, and reliably. I mean, it wasn't like
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from the stuff I was able to pick up, it was just like, okay, yeah, this is here, this is here, this is here.
Yes. Yeah, for my part, I'm glad Ireland has put out their databases, or they're getting there. It's free out there, searchable. Some of it is, you can actually see the actual record from long ago, which is really nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
I think we're good unless there's more questions.
Thank you so much to both of you. It's so informative and helpful.
Well,
All
you're
right.
welcome.
You're
Thanks
welcome.
for having us.
Yes, we loved it.